Hey, welcome to Rock Your Life with Arian Alexander. This is your place to be for all things mastering your mindset, diving into your spirituality, having a lot more fun in life, and of course, rocking your life. And all right, girls and guys, let's talk about law of attraction today. My guest, Ginny Gane, is an expert in law of attraction and has been working with people all over the world to really understand law of attraction and how to become the most powerful and authentic versions of themselves. When you're authentic within yourself and you're lit up, you're going to continue to create what you desire. She's got a really interesting take on law of attraction and what it means and how to use it. And she is going to dish it out for us today. I loved having this conversation with her. I think she's genius and she breaks it down so simply. So I can't wait for you to hear our conversation. Okay, here we are with my friend Ginny. Hi.
Hey, how's it going?
It's so good. So here's fun fact. You live in Florida. Where do you live in Florida?
I live in Florida now. I'm originally Canadian. So.
Right, but you live in Florida now. Where do you live?
West Palm Beach.
I'm moving to Miami in like 2 weeks.
No way. There's LOA right there in action.
Oh, you know what? It is, and I should tell the story as we're on our interview today because it's pretty cool, definitely. So I saw that and I was like, oh my God, you're a Florida girl. Yeah, from Canada to Florida. I mean, it's really similar, isn't it?
Oh my goodness. Listen, it's one of my best manifestations ever, living in Florida.
I love it.
Yeah, I was talking to a client this morning and they're in Canada and it was like, we're not happy because it's raining. And I'm like, I get it. I'm going to teach you how to get out of that, but I get it.
Right? I know. Yeah. I know my joke. I grew up in Kansas. I'm a Midwest girl and I live in Los Angeles. I live in Santa Monica right by the beach. Yeah. And so my
you're
joke
going is sun to sun.
I'm going just coast to coast. I'm like, I just want warmer water and hotter temperatures basically.
Yeah. Yes. That's
so yes, and it's a complete manifestation. Yeah. So Ginny, you are this queen of law of attraction. And I think it's awesome because there's so many misconceptions around manifestation and law of attraction, because how people really know law of attraction is from The Secret from so many years ago, from the movie and the book, which is awesome. But there's some places that missed. So tell me, in your experience of coaching, and you work with mostly women, is that accurate?
Yes.
Yeah. And you're coaching with women around the world. What do you see are the biggest blocks to actually manifesting what you really desire?
How much time do we have?
So we have 50 minutes. So get it all in 50 minutes.
49 minutes. Well, I love approaching it like this sometimes because I feel kind of there's two different worlds with LOA. There's like people that know of it from The Secret usually, but don't actually know it. And then there's the people that are into it and actually understand it. So when you're in that first, and both are great, the first introduction to The Secret is wonderful that it got out there in so many ways, right? But what happens from that perspective when you're first getting introduced is one of the biggest misconceptions is you have to feel good all the time, right? Is when they're like, okay, so like attracts like is the biggest thing people take away from The Secret. Okay, the energy I put out is the energy I'm going to get back. Like attracts like, which is all very true. And then another misconception, besides the fact that I think I always have to feel good, so I'm not allowed to feel bad, right? Mm-hmm. Which is very destructive, actually, not allowing our feelings. And then the next biggest one is about that I sit back and do nothing. Like you hear a lot of like, oh, well, what are you just supposed to sit back and do nothing? Like, that's not how this world works. And there's some truth to that. And there's some falsity to that. So those are the two biggest.
God, that thing about sitting back and just being passive and thinking, if I think a red Ferrari is going to show up at my door enough, it'll show up. I'm like, okay. Let's tell me how that's working for you. Because I'm like, you kind of there's kind of some other things involved. And I'm a huge fan of visualization and, whatever it takes to shift your unconscious thoughts and experiences around things. But that's where I think these misconceptions about LOA is so important to discuss and for you to help clarify for us today.
Yeah.
So one thing that it's just this funny example that pops in my head is This is how I perceive that a lot of people perceive law of attraction. So I said to my friend, so I got COVID a month or two ago. And she's like, yeah, you got it because you're so didn't want to get it because you were so like, you were pushing it away so hard that you got it. And I went, okay.
Thanks
I couldn't with this. I was like, I couldn't with a straight. I was like, okay, so out of all the billions of people on the planet, do you know how many people don't want to get COVID? Like some people get it, some people don't. It's not that everyone who doesn't want to get it gets it, and everyone who has a positive relationship with it doesn't get it. I was like, this is the most ridiculous conversation, but this is how simplified people think it is. Yeah. Oh, if you either push it away, then you're going to bring it towards you. So you just have to be open and draw it towards you. And I'm like, okay, that's the simplified version, but that's not actually how it all works.
There's so much more to it.
Tell us so much more. What's the truth about LOA?
Well, I think the biggest things, it's more than your thoughts. Thoughts are extremely, extremely important. Thoughts do create your reality. But the most important role of thoughts is they direct your focus. And what you focus on expands in your life. You know, where attention goes, energy flows. Right. And so thoughts direct your focus, and then you feel, those are your emotions. The energy you're putting out is your emotions. And that's the indicator of what kind of experience you're going to be attracting. It's not that if I think about, because how many people you can think, I want more money. It's not just the thought, what the thought is about. It's how do you feel about that thought? What's the vibrational frequency that goes with that thought? Because for most people, when they say, I want more money or I want a new relationship, it's like the frequency of that is actually more lack. It's saying like, I don't have it and I want it, give it to me. So that's what you're communicating with the universe, right? So like we speak English to each other and we communicate to each other or whatever language, our communication to the universe is our emotions. And we do not pay attention to our emotions really hardly ever. And that is the biggest missing link when people are talking about the law of attraction, is not acknowledging fully the emotional part of it.
Yeah, that's so great. It's that you said that it's more than your thoughts, because that's the misconception I see. It's the thoughts. I'm like, it's not just the thoughts. So you're saying it's more than the thoughts. It's about the focus of the thoughts, but it's also the underlying emotion that you're having about the thought or having about the experience. And I agree that we skip over that during the day. We're not, we can't spend all day, every day thinking about the emotions in a moment because we got shit to do. Mm-hmm. But it's like when you do want to shift something, it is important to pay attention to that, or you want to create more of something, paying attention to those emotions. So Can you break it down a little bit for us so we can really understand like how you do this with a client or with you, how you do it with yourself?
Yeah. Well, I actually I've over the years have come up with this like system that works and it kind of breaks down into 5 steps. Now, the first step is developing an awareness. You have to develop an awareness of where you are. You know, you have to understand what you're communicating to the universe through your emotions before you can ever change it, right? And then the biggest thing and this is where the most significant change happens, is when you release resistance. So that's the second part. And releasing resistance, so resistance is like stress, right? That's how we feel resistance, any sort of tension or stress. And we actually have so much more control over that than we practice. And then the third, once you've released that, like one of the concepts that in the way I teach law of attraction is that life is for us, that there's a part of us that is like flowing well-being, and that is our natural state. And so we really trust that and lean on that. And so if we just get out of the way by removing our resistance or releasing it, then we open up a whole new world and experience for ourselves. And, people talk about like raising your vibration. And one of the examples I use a lot is, and Abraham Hicks uses this, is like a cork floating. Like we're naturally like a cork floating on the surface of the water, and our resistant thoughts and energy pull that cork under the water. But if we just stop doing those things, if we stop focusing and worrying and thinking about everything that's going wrong, our cork will naturally float, meaning our vibration will naturally rise, meaning we will feel better naturally. And so that's the place where you see the biggest transformation, in that like letting go. Do you want me to keep going?
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
I'm curious. I want to slow this down for just a minute around
Yeah.
the releasing resistance, because I think this is such an opportunity. And I see that this is also the place where people can get stuck the most, of this releasing resistance. So, for example, I'm sure you work with tons of clients around, creating more income and more money in their lives. So if the resistance is that I don't have enough, or I don't think I'll ever have enough, or whatever those beliefs are that are there, it's like, well, how do you actually release that resistance? How do you actually release those thoughts? Because I get it. Like, if you're thinking like, I don't have enough, I'll never have enough, that to me is resistance. And that's pulling you under the surface. Like you're saying, the cork is, you're pulling your cork underneath the surface. So you're not in the flow anymore. But it's like, how do you really shift out of that and release that resistance?
So one of the most important skills you develop and I'm just going to say, like, become more conscious. This isn't even like an LOA thing. This is like a self-growth worldly thing, is you learn to become, to feel independently of what you're observing. So if you can look at your reality, if all we did is look at our reality and respond to it, we're not being purposeful in our creation. We're just being, reactors to life. So everything in life is a manifestation, right? Everything that happens is a manifestation. It's just whether we're aware of it and whether we're choosing it. And so that's where the amazing part comes in about leveraging law of attraction and manifesting, is we get to choose. We get to deliberately be intentional about what we're putting out, so we know what's coming back, or we're choosing that. And so when you get to that place of looking at your reality, and if you are just reacting, so you're looking at your bank account and you're saying there's no money in there, how can I feel good about that? Like, that condition has to change before I can feel differently. We're a victim to life, right? If I need my lover to show up before I feel worthy and valued and in love, we are not being empowered. We're not being who we're meant to be. As humans, we have choice. We are the only, people on the planet that have choice. Everyone else is just in flow. And when I say everyone else, I mean animals, nature, things like that.
Yeah.
So the biggest thing in this is understanding, and I know it doesn't happen at first, that's why it takes some practice and training, but that the possibility to feel independently of my life, of what I'm observing and seeing, that's possible. And we know this is true because think how quickly we can shift an emotion, right?
Yeah.
You can feel, and right now, most of us are just like looking at what is and responding. Then something else happens and we feel this way. Then something else happens and we feel this way. We can go in an instant from feeling abundant and happy to sad and awful.
Yes. Yes.
It doesn't take a lot of time to shift. It's just paying attention to what we're focusing on and how we're responding. So to answer your question, we don't realize we have a choice, but we do. Mm-hmm. We have a choice in how we respond to stress, and that you can ultimately and eventually train yourself into a place where you get to make that choice more.
This is great, because I just jotted down some notes as you were speaking of most people walk through as reactors to life. And I see this all the time. And I've been a business and life coach for many years, and I don't coach a lot on relationships, but obviously all my clients are in relationship of some sort.
Yeah.
So I've coached a lot of women around dating and this experience of building relationship with a man. And I've always said this of like, because women respond to the man, like the man asks her on a date, the man, like whatever, it's like they wait for the man to do the thing and then they respond. And I'm like, girl, you got it backwards. You are the creator. So you get to be empowered in the creation and the choices and how you show up, and he will respond to you. Mm-hmm. But I see that especially with women, we are not taught that. We are taught to be and I like what you say, a victim to life. No one wants to think of themselves as a victim, and I get it. But that word, I don't mean it in the I guess the meaning that the colloquial, way we use victim. But what I mean, and I hear what you're saying, is like, we are not a victim to circumstances. Because if I let every outer experience and every person's thing make me feel some way, I'm going to be insane.
Yeah, your life will suck.
My life would suck. Okay. So I had to learn that the hard way of like, I remember, one of my coaches said that to me. She was like, Arian, you are not a victim to life. And I was like, what? It was so, what, me? No, I'm a coach. I'm a spiritual psychologist. What? Yeah. I'm not. But I was like, oh shit, I am. I'm letting all these things externally think that I'm a victim to like whatever the circumstances were. And I'm not. I get choice. Yeah. So I love that you're really bringing this back, especially for women, to this place of empowering within yourself to make choices, to be empowered in how you do respond to something, and to look at yourself as the creator so that life is responding to you versus the other way around.
Bam. Life is responding to you. So, and think about it this way, everything in this entire universe is energy. So science is slowly catching up with our philosophies. And this stuff, like law of attraction, is not new. And you'll go back as far as any teachings. And it's in every single teaching around the world. It might not be called law of attraction, but it's there. And so everything in this entire universe is energy, right? When you break down matter, we know that it's all full of little atoms vibrating around, and there's actually more space, and we're full of little atoms and everything, right? And there's an interaction. That's how we can interact with each other. That's how it's like magnets. It's like that invisible force that operates on all of this energy in the universe. The law of attraction is what manages all these different energies. And so that when like attracts like, when you're being a certain frequency, you will attract experiences that are in a similar vibrational range to that frequency. And I love when you brought up love. So like talking about relationships, we get that wrong so much. I got it wrong a million times. Relationships are my favorite. I love exploring them and just talking about them. But it is all about your relationship with yourself, right? You and your inner being, or whatever, term you want to call that invisible life force. And when you make that relationship your priority, when literally, I know it's so cheesy to say you fall in love with yourself. It's so much deeper than that. You actually get into the vibration of being in love, and you can train yourself to that place. And then you'll find your match. Then your match will come in easily. And you're not finding them. But if you're looking for it outside of yourself, it's that same phrase. If you're looking for someone else to fill your cup, literally it's going to be a match to where you are. So when a woman needs a man to feel great about herself, which, hey, we all love that. We all love to feel great about ourselves. They are attracting that. So they're in the lower kind of vibration of needingness. And so they're going to attract a man at that same level as them. And so it'll be a fit for a while until it isn't. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's such a interesting thing, because what I hear from women and men is like, why do I keep
the same thing
dating? Why do I keep drawing in this? Why do I keep drawing in the same person? Again, like I'm a victim. Like I'm a victim to who I draw in. Yeah. Why does the same type of guy keep showing up? And I'm like, that's not the most helpful question, because because again, it's like I'm sitting here being me, and like all these guys that are douches keep showing up. So like, what's wrong with the guys? And I'm
what's
like,
the common denominator?
Oh, exactly. I'm like, what's the common denominator? I mean, and I can only say this because I did it myself for like 20 years, right? Thinking it was the guys. And then I was like,
I was the same way.
Right? Like, oops.
Turn the mirror on myself. All along.
It was me. Oops. It's very humbling. It's like adulting to wake up and realize it's yourself, and it always is yourself, right?
I'm like, it's their fault. They're negative, and I don't feel good.
Right. He's he's controlling, and that's not okay. And I'm like, but you're that again, like you're responding to this and you're
Yeah. You are a
letting it.
cooperative component to that.
Yes,
Yeah.
totally. So there's that. And then also this place about being in love. Everyone wants to be in love. And so I come from the field of spiritual psychology, and the let's call it the point of view of that is, if I think I have to fall in love with someone, then what am I saying? I was out of love
Yes.
before. So I'm out of love the second before I quote fall in love with you. So any time before that, I've been out of love, which is so sad to think like, wait, I've been walking around the planet and then I have to find this person to actually be in love. So I love what you're saying. It's this falling in love with self, but what that means is remembering that you already are the loving, that there is no love outside of you. We just think it is. We think it's this other person, but it's not. It's us the whole time.
Always. So I love explaining this to clients is when we're falling in love, what's actually happening is we're seeing this other person who has a lot of details that please us. Oh, I like how tall they are, I like their hair, I like their style, their voice. They did nice things for me, right? We're observing things that we like. And that focus creates an alignment within ourselves, between us and us, us and our spirit. And that's what feels good. We open the channel within ourselves to receive love, and we think it's coming from them, but it is 100% always coming from us.
Oh, I love this because this is what I say all the time. And I love how you put it so simply, right? That it's like, we think it's coming from someone else, but it's only because I'm focusing on the things that delight me about this person. So therefore I'm feeling better inside myself. And then I think it's because of him or her, but it's not. It's still me having a relationship with me in my image of this person.
Yes.
Byron Katie says this, and I love the work of Byron Katie. And she says, we're never actually in love with another person. We're only in love with our image of that person.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's so, again, like so humbling and like adulting to be like, oh, fuck, are you fucking kidding me? Like, seriously, but I want to be in love with someone, right? But it's so like, no, it's my image of them. It's never, I can't ever see anybody fully because I'm only seeing someone through my own eyes.
Yes. And that's why so many relationships start out all beautiful. And then the more time you spend with them, the more opportunity there's to observe things that don't please you. And as your focus changes, your feelings change.
Wow, you just literally broke this all down. That like, so you start shifting your attention to different things that the person does that annoys you or you don't like, and then you're feeling inside yourself that disturbance or upset around it. And again, you're projecting it out onto that person.
Yeah. We blame them. We give them, you're the reason why I don't feel good. But in fact, I'm the one in control of my focus. So that's like, number one in all of this, and we're talking about being a victim to life, we have to take responsibility for how we feel, or we're never going to get anywhere, which is like what you were commenting on, what you were saying.
Yeah, it's taking that dominion and responsibility over your own experience. And again, it's very humbling. I remember when I still go through this. I'm like, I don't want to be an adult. I don't want to do adulting. We don't
ever stop, really.
Right. We don't ever stop, right? There's always opportunities. And I wouldn't say it's the easiest thing to do because, when we're kids, like there is someone responsible for us. It is
I
easier,
will challenge that.
Oh, wow. Tell me. Yes.
Yeah. So I love coaching parents because I think we're really conditioned in a way that parents are meant to be responsible for their child. And of course, they're responsible for their safety and, keeping them alive, but they're never responsible for their happiness. And that's where we get way off. Especially moms love to take that on and they totally lose themselves. If the moment we make someone else's happiness more of a priority than our own, we lose our power. We're not in our power. Our power is we can only control how we feel. You can't. And so going back to this feeling of like being in love, so no one is giving you love the same way no one is giving you happiness. You know how it is. Like when you're in a bad mood, someone can't like make you happy. You're just like, no, I'm here. And so it's not like happiness is not like a gift we give. We might be able to say something and temporarily, help someone out, but they have to be willing to receive it or be open to it, because the change happens within them. The feeling comes within them. So with kids, the more parents or who's ever mentoring them can let them be responsible for their own feelings, they will grow up so much more empowered, and the parents are freer.
Yeah.
I get
So give
passionate
me
about parenting too.
I love that. That's a really, really good note for parenting. And so if I can interpret what I think you're saying, and you can tell me if this is accurate. So for instance, when a kid is, I mean, kids get upset every, 5 minutes approximately when they don't, you take the ball away and the kid's like, wah! And like, and the parent, right? They're having a hissy fit because you took the ball away, right? Of anything, right? We know kids, and that's what they do. Their emotions are just kind of all over the place most of the time. So that's what they do. So what you're saying and what I see parents doing is always trying to make it better. Of like,
Yes.
oh my God, make it better. Why? Don't cry. It's okay. Like, how can I make it better? So what I hear you saying is give the kid the responsibility of that moment, or it's not I mean, again, they're kids. Like, when they're 5, the term responsibility is a little, it's not that, but it's just give them their own experience around it. If they want to be sad or mad, let them be sad or mad, because their natural state is going to bounce back to joy in approximately 2 seconds.
I know. We want emotions. Emotions are good. All of the emotions are good. We're human. We are meant to experience the whole range of the emotional scale. We're not supposed to always be happy. We wouldn't be satisfied as humans if we lived in that place.
I know. That's how I say. I'm like, we'd be bored in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
If the whole world was just happy all the time, we would be bored in 5 minutes. So it's like, I totally hear what you're saying and agree. Like, we are meant to have this spectrum of emotions, and to think that you're not it's an illusion, because it is. We're in this human form. We're going to have all kinds of emotions. So I love that in this work that you do around law of attraction and creating what you really desire, it's not about attaining this happiness 24/7.
We're just meant to flow through them a lot easier and smoother than we do.
Nice. Yeah. I love that. Okay, good. So
wait. Coming back to parenting.
Yes,
okay.
Totally.
So that thing, say your child is freaking out, and if your child, remember, energy, vibration, that's what's they're responding. They respond to how you feel more than your words.
Oh, right.
So if they're freaking out and you're anxious, they're going to feel that, right? But if they're freaking out and you are calm, they will respond to that.
Oh, that's how the parenting can shift. Instead of going into the anxiousness around the kid's experience, staying in that loving, neutral, calm place, and then the child is going to respond to that, and they'll self-regulate, because they always do.
Yeah, and then that's a good word. Instead of taking responsibility, they'll self-regulate naturally, because it's natural for us.
Yeah.
And as parents, sometimes we think, I'm upset or I'm annoyed because I was just talking to a client this morning about this. I'm annoyed because you're doing that. But really, if you can give the space, it's just uncomfortable for us as parents to see our child crying or struggling in any way. It's uncomfortable to us. Mm-hmm. The experience is happening in us. Wow. It's not you're not responding to what the child's happening. If you were 100% trusted that they're exactly where they're meant to be, you start to relax.
Oh, isn't that so lovely? Isn't that so lovely?
It is. It brings so much peace and freedom into parenting.
Yeah.
And obviously it's not, you're not going to get it perfect, but
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's true for any relationship. It's always I'm upset because you did this thing that makes me mad. I'm upset because you didn't call me back. I'm upset because you leave your socks on the floor. I'm upset because you told me you were coming home at 7 and you got home at 8. So it's easy to judge and blame all this behavior. And what I hear you saying is we're all always responding to that feeling. So there's a way to, of course we all have boundaries with relationships and all of that. Mm-hmm. So, but if I'm responding with anger or disappointment or frustration in like, you left your socks on the floor again, and I'm thinking in my head, you motherfucker, right? Like there's going to be a different experience than if I can be really, again, like as a parent, like in my loving, neutral place, and then can talk about the situation of the socks on the floor. I'm laughing
Yeah.
because I don't even have a boyfriend, so I don't have any socks on the floor. I'm just thinking, like, if I did never socks on the floor all the time, I'd be like, could you pick your fucking socks up, please?
Yeah.
Which would not be a good way to say that.
we can be responsible for our lives and be creating and be in that powerful place, or we can be blaming, right? So if you want to transform your relationships, remove blame. I guarantee you'll transform all your relationships.
Oh my gosh, that is so true and so huge. And I totally agree, because for me, it's just the judgments that come up. That's the judgments around the other person's behavior that blocks that true loving state. I want to talk about this more with you. We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back from break, I really want you to give us like an example of how do we do that when we're really upset with someone's behavior, and you coaching women all around the world. How do we release that blame? Because that's where I see people get stuck, is like, but no, she really did this thing and he really did it. So it's real. So how could I not blame him because it happened, right?
Let's talk about justice too.
Let's talk about justice and blame. All right, we'll be right back. This is Rock Your Life with Arian Alexander. I'm here with Ginny Gane, and we will be right back.
Fun for Life Radio, because having fun is a good use of your time.
All right, we're back. And if you haven't listened to my friend Pili Montilla's show, Truth and Tunes, you better take a listen. She is a cultural music expert, and she interviews people from all over the world with all kinds of eclectic music. She interviews producers and writers and musicians. She has people come on her show and they tell you their favorite songs and why and what made an impact on them. And you get a really behind the scenes look of this beautiful worldwide cultural music industry with Pili Montilla in Truth and Tunes here on Fun for Life Radio. And I'm here with Ginny Gane. Okay, girl.
Well, that sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Listen to some tunes.
You're like, oh, okay, cool. Music and talk and awesomeness. Yes, my friend Pili is amazing. Let's all listen. So we were talking about blaming people and justice. So tell me how you help
how do we
someone.
do this?
Yeah, how do we do this? And from this law of attraction mindset, and like, how do you work with clients in this way?
Yeah. Well, it's one of the first things we work on. And the biggest thing is giving yourself a choice, right? So when we give ourselves the choice, like, do I want to blame? So, everyone who works with me is already coming in knowing they want to take control of their life and create what they really want. So they have some intention going behind this, some purpose. So usually the choice is, I want to be empowered. Like, I want to be in my power. So knowing that when I'm blaming, I'm not, right, is like, okay, well, there's another option. So say boyfriend leaves his socks on the floor and you're like, you idiot, like, I've told you a million times, blah, blah, blah. And so the acknowledging and having an awareness that I'm blaming is the only thing you need to know. Separating yourself from, I don't need to manage, control him or his actions at all, because that's not my responsibility. But what I can do, I actually can't control him. Think about how often we nag things and they never change, right? What I can control, what I do have power in, is how I feel. And that's the first thing, is just understanding, bringing an awareness and an acknowledgement to where your power is in your life. And then you give yourself the choice. Okay, do I want to blame, or do I want to be open to something different? Be open to feeling different about this. That's one of my favorite statements to use. Affirmations is like, if there's a really tricky situation, something in our life we've been pushing against a lot or just worrying, I'm open to feeling different about this. Because then we don't have to decide. We just are open to it.
That's cool, because it's a really good entry point.
Yes.
Because instead of, you're not saying, the intention isn't to shift it and change it and move out of blame it's just, I'm open and willing to look at this a different way.
Yeah.
And until we have that, nothing is going to shift. And so I just see that's, again, a sticking point of like, if you get in your opinion that something's wrong or should be different,
it can't change.
Nothing's going to change.
No.
So there has to be this openness a willingness to see it even a little bit differently.
Yes. Now, it's a very key step because most people, and when they start getting into LOA, will try to feel good way too soon. So they're like, oh, I should feel good about this. Even when we were talking about parenting, I should be calm. I should be calm. Like when they're anxious, like that also doesn't help. So trying to go from one extreme to the other, putting these pressures on ourselves of how we should feel is the opposite of actually being in your power and leveraging law of attraction.
Love it, because this is in any aspect of life. But I would say the big ones for creation are money, relationships. What else?
Physical health.
Okay, right. Money, right. Money, sex, health. Those are always the big, that's every therapist is like everything comes down to money, sex, health.
Yeah.
And by sex, I mean relationships, obviously. So cool. So it's the same thing with any of these. So it's one of those things where, it's, if you're having, let's say, a financial situation where you do want to increase your income, you do want to receive more money, and you're like, but I should have more money right now. And it's bad that I don't have this money. And so what you're saying is we can't go from that place to like, I'm a money magnet and money comes to me easily every day. It's too big of a jump.
Way too big.
Right? Same thing with health. Like, oh, I need to lose 10 pounds and I don't fit into my jeans anymore. And if I looked better, I'd get a boyfriend or girlfriend, whatever it is. And you can't go from that to being like, I'm so
amazing.
Comfortable. I'm amazing. I look so great in my jeans. I'm hot. Like I'm fine. Like it doesn't happen like that. So how do you help in that stage, in that process to shift this?
Yeah. Before I talk about that, that's another thing that gets in the way. Like as we're talking about these, I'm thinking all these things are coming up, is a lot of people think manifesting or leveraging law of attraction is about like pretending or like lying to yourself.
Yes.
And that is the opposite of truth. That is 100% false. We never do that because there's not alignment with that. If you're your brain is way too smart. If you're saying, I'm a money magnet, I'm rich when you have $0 in your bank account or whatever, $10, you're lying to yourself. And what that creates is you're out of integrity with yourself. That's the opposite of what alignment is about. Alignment is about being in integrity with yourself. So
love it.
What was the question?
No, it's good because it's cool because it's the law of attraction is being in alignment and integrity with yourself. So how do you help someone that's in that state of, blame or upset, move, like, how do you move them through the stages into this other point of view?
Well, I take them through the LOA Skills Camp course, the process.
Oh, well, there you go. Okay, I love it. I love it. LOA Skills Camp, what a great name for a course.
Yeah, like because I came up with that because we learn we learn skills in school. We learn to write and read and blah blah blah. We don't learn life skills. We don't learn how to have an effective relationship with someone or to communicate with our universe and get what we want and be conscious. So it's like school 2.0 kind of thing. But yeah, so that's like the best ways to go through that process. But if I'm going to just talk about it generally, like how do you get someone from point A to point B? A couple big things is if the emotion is intense. So if someone has been telling a story in their head, like I'm no good and men don't want me and have failed relationships, or I'm not good with money. I've never had money. It's hard to make money. If you've had those stories going for a while, that's not the area to start focusing on because there's too much momentum going in the wrong direction, in the direction that you don't want. So if that's the case, we start focusing in a different area because no matter where you focus and feel good about, if it's easy to feel good about your relationship and it's hard to feel good about money, you start in your relationship and you will, because we're all connected, you'll raise your like dominant vibration. And once you get into that higher place, then when you look over at this subject over here of money, you have a different vantage point of it. So back to this like vibrational frequency scale kind of thing, lower, higher, when you're in a higher place, you have access to different thoughts about money now that you didn't have when you were down here.
Yes. So it's really, this is really smart. So it's, you don't necessarily have to start focusing on the thing that's not working in your life.
That's the hardest way to do it.
Okay.
That's what most people do.
Yes.
It's trying to fix a problem.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you're saying, don't try to fix the problem yet. Really focus and even strengthen the areas where you are thriving in life. And we all have them, whatever it is. It can be small, whatever it is, we all have them at places where we thrive, and really focus on that and continue building that. And that whole raising that vibration within yourself is going to also reflect over to the other areas of life. So the point of view might change a little bit.
It translates to other areas. Yes. And you will have to eventually do work in that area. And like going back to what we were talking about, releasing resistance, eventually you'll get to the place where you do have to do some work in that area and find different ways to focus on money that feel better to you, that are true, so that does come along as a part of the pathway. And another super, super important thing when you're shifting and feeling better about anything in your life is to start very general. So the more specific we get, the more opportunity there is for resistance to come into our life. So if it's like, even in our desires, like I need $1 million by tomorrow at 4 p.m., right? There's not a lot of belief there.
Right.
And so, but if we're like, I would like $1 million in my life, there's way more alignment with that belief already. So one belief is general and one is very specific. And so when we can focus in a very general way, and we can do it in all subjects in every area, that allows us to kind of take that pressure off, to be in a more allowing place. And then again, we will naturally rise up from there.
So so a SMART goal would be something like, I'm going to make $100,000 in 3 months. And there's a lot of teachers who do this, right? So whenever I've made a goal like that, like even when I say it now, I'm like, well, that it feels urgent. I feel stressed. I feel pressured to like, oh my God, how am I going to make this $100,000 in 3 months?
And that's what you're communicating to the universe. So that's what the law of attraction will respond to. It'll respond to the stress. And so it's not going to make that path to get $100,000 in 3 months easy for you, because it's just, the law of attraction has no judgment. It's like just going to give you back what you're putting out. So if you're going to put out stress and pressure, it's not like, oh, this is bad. It's just like, oh, here you go. Okay, stress and pressure.
Right. It's not judging.
It doesn't care. Yeah.
It doesn't care. It's just a reflection. Okay,
yes,
good. So this is a really simple way to look at it. And I'm glad that you're saying it this way, that's in words that we can understand in a simplified way. So it's really about understanding whatever this thing you want to create in money, sex, health, whatever it is. When you think about the creating of it, it's those feelings about thinking about your creating. That's what you're getting back. So for instance, what you were saying of, in order to create it differently, let's call it. That's why you say create more of a general experience of like, I'd love to experience receiving at least $100,000. Mm-hmm. That, even saying it right now, feels more flowy and free and available and possible.
And that's what you learn to trust. So our emotions are our guidance system. And this is where we've been totally conditioned oppositely. I don't want to say wrong, oppositely, is that we're taught all about action. And so I must take the action to get what I want, right? And action is essential, but your action will be 1,000,000 times more powerful for you if you do it with alignment, if you pay attention to the emotion that you're bringing into the action. So when we're talking about working out, if you hate working out and you do it every single day because somebody's told you that you have to do that and sacrifice and push and work, this goes with work, it goes with everything, then you might get to your goal. And I mean, you can get to your goal. We've proven it 1,000,000 times. But how does that goal feel when you get there? It feels great for temporary, but because you have been practicing the emotion of stress and then probably self-hate and blame and all that along the way, you won't be satisfied, because we don't ever want something for the thing. We want the thing because of how it's going to make us feel.
Amen.
Yeah.
It's always what I call the dangling carrot syndrome.
Yeah.
I want a partner. Oh, I got the partner, but I'm still not happy. So I want a baby. I got the baby, and now I want another baby. And now I want a bigger house. And now I want a better car. Whatever it is. I want more. I want to make $250,000. Well, now I want to make $1 million. Well, now I want to make 2 million. Well, now I want to, whatever. It's this dangling carrot. And it's great to have desires, but it's not to think that that's ever going to actually fulfill you and satisfy you in the way you think. It will never.
Conditions will never fully will never long-term satisfy you. They give you like a hit. They're like a drug, and they're important. Our desires and dreams are important. They are calling us on our journey, but it's the journey of who we're going to become. And one of my favorite statements, and I forget actually who said it, but there's never a happy ending to an unhappy journey.
Oh my gosh, that's so great.
Right? Yeah. Like, make your journey happy, and then your ending will be happy, because it's always now. We never get there.
Yeah. It's so true. It's so funny because I can relate to this in my own life. At the top of the interview today, I was like, "Oh, I'm moving to Miami," and you're like, "Yeah." Oh, wait. And I'm like, for real. Because this happened. I remember when I went to Miami a few years ago for the first time, I literally was like, I'm going to live here someday.
Oh, cool.
And I was like, I don't know how or why. And and it just kind of like was seeded, right? But I never really thought like I would actually move to Miami. And then when I did like a mind movie, which is like basically a vision board and video form. And when I look, and I kind of, forgot about it, whatever. But when I look back now, probably 50% of the pictures were me in Miami because I was so happy. Because when I'm there, like big smiles, having so much fun in the water, on like balconies, looking over the ocean, on a boat, like all these things that I love. And I was like, that's why I'm moving to Miami, because it makes no sense. People are like, why? And I'm like, I don't know, why not? Like, like
the experience.
It's the experience, because I feel so fulfilled and so happy in the heat, in the water, on the boats. And so I'm like, right, that's what drove this. It wasn't like, it's not people were like, is it a guy? I'm like, no. It's like, is it a job? No. It's like, I'm just going because like, why not? Because I'm happy. And so I get it that what you're saying is always that staying in tune with that inner feeling, whatever brings you that joy and happiness, and cultivating that within yourself. And then that will expand into these different areas of life. And like you said, it doesn't just happen. You still have to, do whatever you need to do in actions and behaviors around those areas. But it's most importantly, paying attention to what you're feeling.
Absolutely. Yeah. We can't be, well, firstly, we're all meant to be individuals, and we're meant to live and express our unique selves in this world. That's that huge part of fulfillment that comes. But life is made for everyone. And there's such a diverse amount of options that they're not going to be pleasing to all of our unique preferences. So there's like, we have the whole buffet to choose from, and then we get to choose. But if we don't purposefully choose, we're just going to respond to this that we do like and then don't like, and then do like and then don't like. And so that's why so many lives are all over the place, because we don't realize the control we have. And I don't even love the word control, the power we have to choose.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So good. It's that understanding that you are the creator, that your choices are what drives your choices matter. It's so true. It's so good. Oh my God, this is so awesome. Ginny, we're going to pop over for a break, and we'll be right back. And we're going to finish up with a little lightning round of questions for you.
Oh boy.
So fun. All of this is spontaneous. None of my guests ever know what my lightning round of questions are. So I love it because it's off the top of the head. We'll be right back. This is Rock Your Life with Ari and Alexander. And if you haven't listened to my friend Dana's show called Hollywood Unfiltered, oh my gosh, do yourself a favor. Listen to Dana's show. He's this Hollywood expert. Okay. He knows all things movie, television. Oh my gosh. So he interviews his producers, writers, directors, actors, all kinds of people in the business, and gets the real scoop of what it's like, what it's not like, the challenges they go through. He goes through your movies, of like dissecting movies. Like he is just this Hollywood expert. So you are going to love Dana Buckler's Hollywood Unfiltered. Okay, we'll be right back.
Fun for Life Radio, because life is fun.
Okay, here we are with Ginny Gane. And Ginny, I want to make sure we get your website. It's just your name, ginnygane.com. Yep. And it's GINNYGANE.com.
It can be a tongue twister for people.
Totally. Well, I want to say Ginny Jane. That's how I want to say it. I get a lot of
like Ginny and Jenny. And if you've ever heard Cassie and I on our podcast, we have a podcast, Manifest It Now. She, for the life of her, cannot say Ginny. She says Jenny. We have tried it. I've tried to train her, but it doesn't happen.
That is funny. Oh my gosh. Oh yeah. So your podcast is called Manifest It Now.
Yep.
And that's on iTunes and
iTunes, Spotify. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. Great. Well, that'll be fun to hear a deeper dive with you and Cassie on that podcast, which is awesome. Okay, so I'm going to do your lightning round of questions. What is your favorite thing about moving to Florida?
Sunshine.
Sunshine. Coming from Canada, I can imagine. That's awesome. Okay, what advice would you give your 21-year-old self?
I love this question. I actually ask myself this a lot. Relax. It's all happening.
That's so great.
Yeah.
Relax. It's all happening. That is so great. You know, I swear every guest I talk to says that, like, chill out.
Mm-hmm. Like, chill out.
Right?
Yes.
Like, it's all going to be fine. And I'm like, well, if we can look back at our 21-year-old self and say that, then why don't I say that to myself today?
Do it. I do it all the time.
You do? I love it. You're like, relax, chill out. That's so cool. Oh my gosh. What is your favorite manifestation story, or one of your favorites, from you or a client?
There's so many good ones. I have to say manifesting my wife is my most important manifesting story. And it was not by accident. I was very intentional, but it did come about in that way that I was unexpected, which as you get into this, you find there's a lot of manifestations that happen unexpectedly because you're not trying. Yeah. And that's one of the keys. And so we connected, and we weren't meeting. She lived in Florida. That's why I'm here. And so we connected long distance. And then it was months before we were actually physically together. And then it was, once we were physically together, it was that feeling I was looking for my whole life of like, there was no doubts. So I always question. Nice. I'm like, I think I'm going to marry this one. Yeah. I'm going to marry this one. Okay. Nope. Okay. I'm going to marry this one. And then, but do I want to, should I, questions. And then when we got together, I'm like, I'm going to marry this woman.
Love it. Yeah. You knew it. Good manifestation, girl. That is amazing. I love it. Okay. Well, Ginny, this has been so great with you today. I'm so happy I've loved talking to you. And I just know that my guests are going to get so much out of this, and just keep on with this awesome law of attraction for ourselves and for others. And go check out Ginny at ginnygane.com.
Thanks you so again, much. It's awesome. You're so
welcome,
fun.
Love. Okay. Bye.